YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with another NFL trade scenarios video. I feel like I've done a bunch of these this year. Crazy 2019 offseason and season only in week 2. Jalen Ramsey is on the trading block. Maybe the best corner in football right there with Stephon Gilmore. But very young, very talented, can play multiple DB positions, but he'll be used at corner because that's where he's proven. And I'm going to talk about the teams that he could be traded to today, quite a few of them. And identifying these teams, I'm looking for a team that has the need and the cap space. I also prefer the teams that have future cap space as well because he's going to be a free agent after next season, and they may want to sign him long term and have the ability to if they're trading this much. I think he's pretty valuable. Maybe his value goes down a little bit because of the situation he's in, but I'm predicting these trades based off his value. Worth at least a first round pick and more, multiple first round picks possibly. We're gonna go through it, all these teams, breaking it down. Right before we get started, Patreon.com/thegoathouse, link in the top of the description. We got so much bonus content for you guys. At the same time, you guys can support us. You can join to get weekly mock drafts or Super Bowl picks. Some weeks you'll get a mock draft, some weeks I'll update my Super Bowl picks. All that's updated, brand new. Bonus videos, behind the scenes videos, blooper videos, NFL videos, multiple a month that you don't get here on YouTube. Private Discord chat, plenty more on the Patreon. Worth checking into. Link in the description. Subscriber goals at 40K by the end of this year. Please help us out. Full NFL content here at the Goat House in season and during the offseason. Predictions, recaps, power rankings. We got you covered. Let's get into some predictions. Mainly just trying to identify the teams. A lot of these have the same compensation from the other team. We'll see that. Let's start with the Eagles. I think he's worth, really, I think he can be worth more than this. It's not every day a corner, a very hard position to play, maybe the second hardest position to play after quarterback. A proven corner becomes available. So I even think, even though it's 2 first-round picks and you have to pay the guy, I think that's a good deal. I think he's probably worth more than that. I think the Eagles will be a team that, I think they could be in on Minkah Fitzpatrick. Maybe I heard the Minkah Fitzpatrick deal goes down very soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jalen Ramsey news kind of pushes that back because teams may want Jalen Ramsey first to see if they can get him first, actually. But the Eagles definitely need secondary help, as we saw. I mean, we knew that before the season, but we saw it kind of in action in the Falcons game, getting beat deep. Ramsey would be an upgrade, great fit, makes them better. They're contending. They're going for that Super Bowl. This is really what they need. This gives them a big boost right here. So 2 first-round picks, 2020 and 2021, for Jalen Ramsey to the Eagles. Definitely a team to look out for. You're going to start to see the same trade scenario, just different teams, and then we'll switch up to different compensation for Jalen Ramsey. So there's going to be more than just what you're seeing right now. But the Seahawks are another team. I think the Seahawks could definitely do it. They're always looking to get better through trades. They're not afraid to go get a guy with this attitude. They know they have the winning attitude, the great coaches they can get along with. So I think the Seahawks are definitely a team that they can do this. They got a pretty good secondary. They play as a unit. It's a good unit. They don't have any standout guys. Adding Jalen Ramsey to that could be good as long as he doesn't mess up any chemistry there. In the locker room. But it seems like he's a good teammate. It's just some nonsense with the coaches. Just doesn't want to be in Jacksonville, I think. So watch out for the Seahawks. Another team that can offer a similar, value. 2 first-round picks, a first-round and a future first-round pick. Could be the Chargers. They lose Derwin James, a safety, but they're still, struggling a little bit in the secondary. They definitely can use another corner opposite of Casey Hayward, and they do have Desmond King, but he is a slot corner, and they just need help in the secondary because it's kind of lacking without Derwin James, but I also think they need another corner as well, is my point. So adding Jalen Ramsey to that when Derwin James comes back, it's all long-term guys too. Derwin James, Jalen Ramsey, and the Chargers can spend their future cap, which they have, on Jalen Ramsey instead of Melvin Gordon. So that's definitely a team to look out for. I think it'd be worth doing. The only reason they wouldn't do it, the Chargers, maybe a little less likely than some of these other teams on here, but still I like, is because they may be looking for their quarterback of the future, and it'd be hard to do giving up 2 in a row first-round picks, and they also could use offensive line help, so they may want to keep picks to be able to do that because they want to contend these last few years that Rivers has. So a team that can use them, a team that can spend the money with their future cap instead of Melvin Gordon, that all made sense. but there is some flaws in it. We will see. Another team, this one kind of clicked to me for some reason. It just felt right. I don't know why. I really can't tell you why. It's kind of a gut feeling. At the end of the day, if I had to put my money on it, maybe this wouldn't be the one. Maybe this wouldn't be the team, the Saints. But something about it, they have Marshawn Lattimore, but they definitely need more help in their secondary, especially corner. And they get better here, and they definitely can contend and need all the help they can get with Breeze out. When Breeze is back, they definitely are a legit contender with a guy like Jalen Ramsey. They don't need a whole bunch else. Maybe they need to look for their future quarterback. They're still trying to decide if Teddy Bridgewater or Taysom Hill is that. I think Bridgewater can be, not that he's Drew Brees, though. So that could be the flaw. Maybe they're looking for their future quarterback, but they don't really have any huge holes. They give up some yards through the air, and after the ball is carried throughout the secondary, they struggle to tackle sometimes. Jalen Ramsey could be the upgrade. A team to look out for is New Orleans Saints. Another team, and this is a little different here. A little different. Raiders and Jags. I think the Raiders are a strong contender for Jalen Ramsey. And it very well could be the first-round pick and a future first-round pick, but the Raiders, because of the Khalil Mack trade, have 2 first-round picks this year. So if they're in a battle with some of these other teams and who's offering something better, I think a little more appealing is for the Jags to get 2 first-round picks this year. So the Raiders may definitely rather offer a first this year and next year, so they still have a first this year. But if they want to beat out the other teams, this is what they can do. The Jags then gain 2 first-round picks this year. So that's definitely a team that's a strong possibility. The Raiders. I like that one a lot because, they definitely could use another outside corner, especially with Conley hurt, even though it's a minor injury. The only problem is there is a flaw in this one, even though it makes sense, but there is a flaw. It's just the whole Antonio Brown thing, and Ramsey with his attitude. Does Mayock pull the trigger on this? His first trade as a GM is failed because of the attitude of the player he traded for, and maybe not quite an Antonio Brown type guy. His attitude has been, sketchy. So that could be a flaw, but in terms of the team, it makes a lot of sense. Next team. The Bills. I don't know if the Bills are a team. I think they'll call. They'll make a call. They're a team that can use them. They have Tre'Davious White. They have a few other corners that can play. Don't get me wrong. The safeties are great, but they have a few other corners that can play, but you can't be afraid to get better. That's what the Patriots do, and they win Super Bowls. They're never afraid to get better. They're set at receiver. What do? Go out and get Antonio Brown. They draft N'Keal Harry in the first round. They do stuff like that. That's why they win Super Bowls. The Bills, definitely playing against Tom Brady. They can use another corner, and then him and Tre'Davious White would be probably the best duo in football, just like that. But I don't know if they would offer a lot because they've been drafting really well. They may want to stick to that plan. They don't want to give up 2 first-rounders, so I threw a first and 2 seconds. It's kind of just a gut feeling. They may not offer as much as somebody else, but who knows because of the situation, because the Jaguars might have no choice but to trade him and his value goes down. Maybe this is the max offer, and that helps the Bills out a lot, so that's why they are up here. The next team is going to be the Cowboys. Byron Jones might not be a long-term thing for the Cowboys, and the Jags obviously like Ramsey because he's a very good corner, and they don't really want to get rid of him because he's a very good corner, and they need a corner, but they have no choice at this point, possibly. But they can get one back here in Byron Jones, and they can sign him long-term as well. And Byron Jones, a first-round pick and a second-round pick, rather than trading 2 first-round picks. Jones, since the Jags could have to, may have to extend him, not the craziest value, but still good value. A good corner that has good experience safety, too. The Jags could use a safety, and he can play safety for them too, so that's actually a good thing there. So that's a really good deal for the Jags too, because they get 3 pieces there, and the Cowboys get their corner. The only downside of this one, why it wouldn't happen, is because they're strongly in on Minkah Fitzpatrick, I heard, and they're signing all these guys long-term. Can they sign Jalen Ramsey long-term? Is that going to be an issue? But the Cowboys are a team I'd put towards the top to watch out for, and even though it's a long shot of players included, this one felt right, This is mainly about identifying the teams. The next team here, the Patriots. I think this is probably the least likely out of the group. I had to include the Patriots because they always surprise. They always make the move. They're never afraid to get better. They could get better opposite of Stephon Gilmore to make the greatest corner duo in the history of the NFL. For those reasons, I had to throw the Patriots up here. It is a long shot. I'm not predicting this to happen, but this is a deal that came to mind. 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and Joejuan Williams, who I like a lot, who they just drafted. So they would have to give up a lot, you see, more than other teams. Why? Because if this were to happen, the Jags aren't going to want to make an AFC team, a team they just played in the AFC Championship 2 years ago, and they, being confident they plan on meeting the Patriots again in the playoffs in the future. They don't want to stack them even more. They don't want to make them more of a powerhouse than they already are. So it would take a lot. This is a long shot, but it's always interesting to talk about, always interesting to bring up. We got two more here. Two more of these. The Chiefs, I like the Chiefs a lot. Same thing as the Patriots, though. You could possibly make this team a powerhouse by doing this. So I think it could take a lot, but the Chiefs are going to be highly interested. I heard they're somewhat interested in Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. But the Ramsey, getting him in there, and that's really all the Chiefs need is secondary. This team could be the best in football. So it would take a lot. 2 firsts, a second, and a fourth. Maybe they'll feel a little more comfortable trading him to the Chiefs and the Patriots. A little bit of difference there, but I think it would take a lot. I mean, that's his value, but maybe his value goes down because of the situation. That is hard to predict, and that's why I'm just trying to identify the teams. And the last one I think is a long shot, but it's been brought up a lot, is the Tennessee Titans. The reason it's a long shot is because they're a division rival. You just never see this good of a player get traded to a division rival. I just don't know if it happens. It's hard to see. But he wants to play there. Like I talked about the Raiders. He wants to play for the Raiders or the Titans is what he mentioned. But really when it comes down to it, he doesn't really get to choose where he's traded to. He gets to choose in free agency, but it's not free agency. They're going to trade him for the best they can get. They don't care what he thinks, obviously. So that's why it's kind of a long shot. But I've heard rumors that they still are interested in doing this. They're going to need a little more, too, than some of the other teams that we talked about where it could just be 2 first-round picks. I've heard, it's maybe just rumors, that they could be interested in Corey Davis, just a few years ago, first-round, 5th overall pick, actually, receiver, which the Jags desperately need, and he's a young receiver with potential. So they trade a lot here, and this is, I think, what it would take just to trade him to a division, rival. You rarely see. First-round pick, Corey Davis, who was just a first-round pick, but his value really isn't first-round, but I'd say second or third at his young age. When the Jags especially need one. 2 seconds and a third, and really you can throw in some mid to late round picks in here too from the future. Just couldn't really fit it. I think it could take that much because it's a division rival. That's why I don't know if I see this happening. The Raiders made sense at first, but the more I'm talking about it, the Mayock situation and really Gruden, do they take a chance on this? It kind of, narrows that down a little bit to some other teams I like a little better. I like the Chiefs. The Cowboys one I liked, but the flaw with that one is can they sign him long-term along with all these other guys they signed? They still got to sign Cooper and maybe some other guys, so it's tough. I like the Eagles. I like the Chiefs. Those are the two that really come to mind. The Seahawks are in on the Minkah Fitzpatrick, so they could be in on the Jalen Ramsey. So really, there's a lot of teams that you can see. Maybe there's teams that aren't on here too that are possible. I'm not ruling those teams out. Those teams that, the Texans, they already traded away a lot of ammo. The Buccaneers could use them. I just don't know. They kind of need their picks. They don't really know about. Winston's still a question mark for the future. So I don't know if they trade a first rounder. They're tight on cap too. Some other teams that you may want to see up here. The reason probably is they're tight on cap, or they just don't know if they can actually sign him when his extension's up. You don't want to trade all this when you may not be able to sign him. You don't know, and I don't know if the teams on the bad side, I guess, would do it either with his attitude, and he wants to win, and every time they lose, is he going to complain, demand for a trade? So the better teams is more likely. There was some teams that aren't the greatest on here, but there was reasons for that. We can talk in the comments. Any other teams you want to talk about? Another team, the Ravens, I think have the best secondary in football, so they don't necessarily need them, but maybe they're not afraid to get better. They really like their corners, so we'll see if they have the cap space too. So we can talk in the comments. Love to talk about that. I can talk on Twitter too. Go follow us. Can't wait to see what happens here and with Minkah Fitzpatrick. NFL is wild this year, so yeah. Hopefully you can join us for other content. Plenty more always in the works. Got our predictions, recaps, power rankings, plenty more. We got you here at the Goat House. Please subscribe, turn notifications on, click that like button. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.